if you feel the need to. All right, so we're underway. Um, I just want to say thank you for everyone making the time to be here. And It was dope because I actually got a couple questions, like just via email, on like some popping stuff and like on technique and just approach on like how, I'll just kind of paraphrase it, just how like your pop can vary, and if it's like if that's okay. And I think that was pretty much the gist of the question, and I thought that was a really good one because I think I at a point had that same question, and I my approach has always been really like very traditional, like just come out super hard hitting, and that style works, and it's just my way of like tradition varying of like some of the original styles, but like that's it's not always necessary, especially like if the context changes. You might need to pull out some different tools. Um, and then the other question was, um, does a dancer necessarily have to hit to be considered a popper, or if they're doing popping style? Yeah, so yeah, right now Ronell's like, those are my questions. um, and we'll get to those in just a sec. I'm gonna go over just a couple other things just to give you like the rundown for today. Um, the other one was perseverance was a thing that I feel like I was talking to one of the students in the class. You know what? I'm gonna throw the whole student thing out the window. It's just like I feel like at the end of the day, I know all of you outside of dance to some degree. When we were doing things in person, I would chat it up with all of you outside of class, just not even on some dance stuff. It was just kind of like, how are you doing? Just to check in. So, yeah. So for everyone in here, um, one person in particular, we got to talking about going to this particular event, and what's really cool is that I actually got invited to this event this year, and unfortunately it has to be online. It was going to be in person, but now that things kind of went backwards as far as the whole COVID restrictions, it's now online, and I have like a kind of a cool experience to share with that, and I feel like hopefully you guys can relate to it or apply it to your own dance journey. But Yeah, it has to do with a particular event, and the theme with that is just, it sounds really corny, but like perseverance and really trying to push through specific barriers that you feel like are there, and you're just like, man, I feel like I can't penetrate this scene. This particular scene has a standard and like an aesthetic that they really really like, and I feel like I don't fit that mold. So I'm just gonna continue to just keep showing my face, and eventually, maybe I might win them over. You know what I mean? That was what I wanted to kind of share with that. So there's that. So I'm letting more people into the room. Um, and then the last thing was just something that I kind of like dawned on me yesterday. I mean, it's something that I constantly revisit, but it was really cool because Chuchen, what's up? We got Christina's in the house. She's joining. Um, but yeah, it was. I was working out yesterday. I was doing my little regimen. It's just kind of my way of getting ready for this battle. What's up, Christina? um, it's my way of getting ready for this battle, but it's also just me maintaining like my injury too, so that way I don't start regressing, going backwards with it. So it's like my little like rehab therapy stuff. And what was really cool is that I have to remind myself of like my journey, and I feel like everyone in here should do the same, especially when they're face to face with like adversity within or inside the dance scene and outside the dance scene. And I feel like one of the things that at least I used to do and still do to some degree, and this is me just full transparency, like I do this to myself, and it's like me comparing myself to other dancers, and it's one of those things that it's like you constantly have to keep your ego in check. And one of the things that dawned on me was like, yo, you just stop comparing, and like your journey is so unique to you that when you dance against anybody or you're performing, whatever, like, what's up, Vlad? Whenever you're performing, or any sort of situation where the pressure is on, like you have to remind yourself of like where you came from and like what it took you to get to that point. So like I was going through this workout yesterday, and yo, it freaking sucked. Like it was like um, So just to kind of give everyone like I've been getting therapy from Offset Med, and one of the things is doing kettlebell workouts, and like I got this new regimen like specifically this week, and it's freaking hard, and it's like I used to have a high tolerance for being able to work out, and like this one like straight up kicked my butt for the last like 2 sessions, and like I was just like, yo, this is like I don't know. I have to really just mentally push through this because I'm like I'm gassed. Like I kind of want to throw up. So it's like I just gotta push. It was crazy. So anyway, it was like one of those moments where I was like, dang, dude, like this is part of my journey. And I feel like if you ever have one of those moments where you're just like, whether it has to do with school or work, and you just mentally have to push through, like those little like tools are so helpful when you do like things like battles. You're just like, damn, remember all that stuff it took me to get to this point, and it's like that extra little like boost to push you from behind. So anyway, any questions before we start? Because those are a couple of things I wanted to touch on for today. I know it's kind of a lot, and if for any reason we go overtime, I don't want to. I want to respect everyone's time here. If you have to leave either before the time, that's fine. And if you have to leave before the time or even after when we go overtime, that's completely fine. Um, Questions? Anything in the chat? You want to unmute yourself? Feel free. It's all good.
I
Otherwise,
have one question before we jump into it. 'Cause I have to go at 8, but
yeah,
one thing that I've been, you mentioned it a few times around like getting comfortable with looking silly. And I think like that's like one of the things I've been trying to push past because I think like a lot of times when I'm at home or I'm labbing and I'm just like playing around with movement or trying to clean up my lines, for example,
yeah,
um, I get caught up in I don't want this to look so generic in that it looks like I'm training,
yeah, yeah,
but at the same time, like I know I need to train to get it to a point where it is cleaner.
yeah,
It's starting to like play with different shapes and trying to do that like because I feel like when I do it in front of a mirror, I get so caught up in what it looks like that I stop dancing. But when I'm not in front of a mirror, it feels a lot more organic. And then those shapes, they feel more real or authentic, or it feels like I can create what I'm trying to do when I'm not looking at it. When I'm looking at it, it doesn't look the same way that it feels. And so I get in this weird, like, oh, it looks silly. But then I don't know if it actually looks silly, if it's just me being overcritical. Yeah, but I was trying to push past that, getting comfortable with playing with it, and even though it may look awkward to you, it may not actually be super awkward. But like, how do you get comfortable with that so that you can push past like your go tos kind of in a way?
yeah. That's cool, man. I like. Thanks for sharing. Um, so with that, is really good because I feel like I'm kind of having a little bit of a moment of like myself in my own training, and one of the things that I had to remind myself is like to not take yourself so serious, and like that right there kind of like almost takes off that like extra pressure, and what it does is it kind of reminds you to just have fun and to play. So like there's always a time and place for drilling like that. You could do that forever and a day and it'll always benefit you. The only drawback to it is that um, I think you can kind of rely on it too much to where your dancing is constantly in this like super like technical like textbook like box of you doing literally just these, and they're nice, but it's like at the end of the day you got to add your own flavor on top of that, and the only way to develop that flavor is um, going into practice, dancing to music that you enjoy, dancing to music that you don't enjoy, because you're gonna get that a benefit from that as well. And I feel like um, I think we touched on this in the week before. It's like if you can try to dance to music that it's not you know exactly to your liking, and then this way it kind of develops that performance skill of being able to turn on that performer in you to where even if you don't feel like getting down or you're having an off day, like even your weakest is still like pretty strong. You know what I mean? So that all just comes with practice. So it's like just right now I was getting down before class, and that's just kind of like my little like ritual is like do something kind of physical to kind of break yourself down so that you again it's almost again not reminding myself like don't take yourself so serious like when you go and do these Q&A sessions where there's pressure of like there's like this almost expectation of you to perform or to give answers and things like that. And it's like I gotta break myself down to where it's like, man, I'm gassed like physically and mentally, and so that way when I go and do this, it's like there's no nerves, there's none of that extra like anxiety inside here. So like I get all that out of my system, so that way when I do it, it's like it's way more organic. So hopefully you can pull something from that. Like when you train, like Brian was in here last week and he was asking kind of like what are the benefits of like doing something that pushes you to that limit where you feel almost like you're going to failure. And like when I mean going to failure in terms of like popping, it's like you're gassed and you feel like you can't go through your movements because you're so concentrated on catching your breath. You're not concentrated on being creative and connecting the moves together and flowing. You're just like it's like a fire in your chest, you know. And then like and then the other thing is your muscles are so taxed to where you have all that lactic acid built up and you can't flex, so you feel like you're not really like you're not giving a full pop because your muscles are just swole. So you're just like uh. But like just the practice of even doing like you just consciously sending that signal to your body of being like pop, pop, boom, boom. So that way when you do something where you're not taxed or not tired, yo, it's cake. It's super easy. It's like, dude, I do this all day in my sleep. So that those are the benefits of like practicing to failure. I feel like there's benefits in you just getting down and just dancing for fun, and then also doing it where it's like, yo, I'm gonna go in today and just break myself down physically and mentally and see what happens. Um, but yeah, my friend has a really dope saying though. He freaking says, I still remember it. He goes, he's like, when you're like dead tired, when you're like I don't even think I can go. He's like, when you're dancing, he goes, the real you comes out. I'm like, damn, that's so dope. I was like, I freaking took that. I was like, that's such a dope saying. So that's B Boy Wicket. He's a really really dope B boy from Renegade. So make sure to check him out. Any other questions before we get to this list of stuff? All good, no worries. If you feel a little like it's not dawned on you yet, Krishna, go ahead.
Yeah, let me share some experience too. So I think I've been trying popping on and off last for 4 years. I think
Mm-hmm.
I've taken a lot of your classes at Dance and also a couple of other poppers. I think I I literally figured out this week that I never understood the basic pop.
Yeah, yeah.
uh, so
That's
I
dope.
think I got some confidence this week
Nice.
because instead of tens, I was trying to hit. Right? So hitting and tensing, I didn't understand the difference much actually. I think now I'm figuring out the difference. So I could do this move which we did for the per dance show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you do this and we do this, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
I never understood. You said tense your muscles. Then I never understood that I could do that now. So I'm very excited actually.
Yeah, that's
So,
dope, man. I love hearing the little like breakthrough moments, like the aha moment that happens when you're like you finally figure out how to do like you're like, dang, that's how you freaking hit. That's crazy, and it's just the skill of tensing and releasing quickly, and
yeah,
that's crazy
yeah.
to hit.
You repeatedly said to tense, but I was we were shaking this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. Like that's one thing that a lot of people do in when trying to, because when you see popping for the first time, you're like, how the hell are they doing that? Like I don't like it doesn't make sense. Like how they're making their body look like this, and it looks like someone's just shaking, but there's a technique behind it, and the technique is through the contraction of the muscle, but it's not
Yeah.
like you know. I do want to touch on this. I wasn't gonna tell anybody, and I mean I might as well say it now. But for Friday's class, I do want to touch on textures, and I'm gonna do my best to explain it um, in a systematic format, so where it's digestible. It's not just me just showing you an idea and being like, you know, just try it. I really want everyone to like. We'll do it in progressions, and we'll do it in just like how we've been doing it before, like how to do a technique, but with while you're dancing and doing a step. So it's not just you just doing a technique over and over. We do a little bit of that, but really trying to see if we can put that on an actual movement. So textures and the texture stuff will kind of go into like more of like an animated style. If you were there, Mary was there on Saturday, Vlad on Saturday as well. We did a little this like exercise where we were learning how to like use our body weight to create like this like reverb effect the entire time. Joey, were you there? I wasn't sure. I don't think it's that. No. Okay, I was just making sure. And I was like, Joey's.
So is that part of the same series or?
No, this is just my regular Saturday class. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. So my regular Saturday class at City Dance, we'll just do some stuff, whether it has to do with the series or just random stuff. So we decided to do something completely different, like as a active recovery, and so we just worked on just being able to animate using your body, and that one was really fun. So we might touch on some of the stuff, or we will touch on those things on Friday. That'll be what to look forward to. But yeah, that's dope to hear, man. Yo, let me know if you have any questions. You guys could
Yeah.
always just hit me up and send me a clip or whatever, and just be like, "Yo,
So
check
one
this out."
quick, yeah, I got some confidence. That's what I want to share. The second thing is, yeah, I think I'm not sure if where I learned. I think we learned this. I'm not sure if last year's series I learned
Yeah,
from neutral. We do this right,
yeah. To hit with the
but I think the other day, yeah, I use this muscles. I'm not sure if politics or you or somewhere I learned.
yeah,
Um, I think last week you said to do the other way, right? So I mean, you
yeah.
lose and tense, right?
So this one, just to clarify, is like you're almost always using these muscles. It's just the movement to like prep it is different because you have like your backward one, or like it's like a backward upward, right? So if I were to give it a sense of direction, it's like going this way, right? And then there's another one that's actually going down. So it's like when you listen to music and you're doing a head nod, and then when you're going down, it's like boom. You're hitting on the downward motion versus going like backwards and up. So last week on Friday we did this one, right? Backwards and up.
So even that we tense the this neck muscles. You said, is that true?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I think when you do the backward one, you're also using like everything in your traps too. So like basically like from like the base of your skull going down into like your shoulder, like the top of your shoulder, you're using those as well when you're doing stuff that's going backwards. But a majority of it is here. It's kind of like similar when I'm always explaining arm pops, like this. You're using your forearm, you're using your bicep and stuff, but the majority of it is like your bicep. I'm sorry, your tricep. And then when you switch it, it's like everything's activating, including your hand, but most of it is coming from your bicep. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing with this. It's like most of the power comes from a specific muscle group. And I'm generally speaking when I'm saying this, because I feel like this can be universal to an extent. Like some people, it just might not click as easy with others, and they might actually develop maybe like a strong hit mostly back here. But I'm just talking about like generally speaking with this one.
Yeah, I still didn't get the back. What I'm doing is more like a dime stop.
Yeah, you're
Uh,
holding it right.
I'm doing more like a dime stop than tensing muscles actually. When I go back, front is easy a bit. I can do from neutral, but I can't. When I go back, I don't know how to tense it. I'll try that probably.
Yeah, try practicing just flexing these muscles in the front, and then eventually like you applying it to that motion should help out. But it's
Okay.
you know process. It's a process. All right, dope. Thanks for sharing, man. That was dope. Anything else? I know some people have to go at 8. That's cool. I was trying.
One last similar like to Krishna, like in understanding something, and I think it's like um and I've been talking to you a lot about like dancing with intent, and the difference has been like for me mind-boggling.
Yeah,
And in a way, I'll be honest, it actually made me feel like even though like I feel like I do try when I go to class. I feel like the difference in intensity just felt completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, I feel like I've been slacking, like
Yeah.
in comparison. But and it was like it was like a bit of an aha moment, and I'm like, oh man, like it when you really do dance that way, there's so much body awareness that's coming into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of like lately, because I've been similar physical therapy, but for my knees,
Mm-hmm.
we've been going through a lot of form correction and how to use other parts of your body. And then there are things that I've been noticing, just like even when we were doing the stuff last week,
Mm-hmm.
and how I step into it, but in a way like using different parts of my body and being aware of those parts
Yeah.
and really focusing on if I'm going to step forward, I want to step in a certain way
Yeah.
and thinking about that a lot more now than I did before. I think before it was like, okay, this is the step. Okay, I'll just do it. And now it's
Yeah.
like, no, I want it to look a certain way and trying to apply that and then getting to the place where that feels natural with the music and it doesn't like feel forced. And I think we talked to me about that last time, but it's now starting to make a lot more sense. That was like an aha moment for me, and I'm like, okay, I really want to keep on that wave
Mm-hmm.
because it feels completely different
Yeah.
dancing like that all the time.
That's good to hear, man. That's crazy. I mean, I don't know if anyone else in here is feeling the same way as far as their movement, whether it's through this class or they're taking class from another teacher. Like, maybe having that moment where you're just like, dang, like, moving with intention doesn't necessarily mean moving with like force of, like, you forcing a particular movement. It's more of just like, if you have an idea of how you want to approach this step or this arm swing, like, really trying to see if you could do it with like some meaning and feeling. It's not something where it's like oh, it feels like that at first when someone explains it to you. You're just like, move with intent. Like, what are you talking about? Like you want me to step hard? Like it's like, and you do it and it looks mad corny because you do it. You're like you're like, nah, man. You step, like, you have to explain a specific. I think sometimes having that backstory to a specific step helps a lot, you know. And I know Christina can speak on this too because you crump. Like, there's characters, and some of those characters have backstories. Am I right? Or no?
Yeah, I think a lot of them do. And if not, sometimes some of them, I think some of the more advanced ones do, like a whole backstory to it. But generally, you have a character, and so sometimes some of the characters you can be really general. Like in that moment, you can just switch on something else. Like it can be a part of you. It can be a part of a character. Suddenly, you're thinking like, I'm just walking through a battlefield right now, you know,
Dang.
and you're like bang 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 bang, and and then you have like a second, you have a target, and that changes it because it creates a certain illusion when you're looking out and suddenly your space is much bigger from a
Yeah.
performance standpoint. Yeah, similar, I think.
I think that's one of the things that makes crump like so different from other dance styles. And like when you see like in battles, like all styles battles, it's like
Mhm.
a crumper can enter and just like it can has the potential to just smoke everybody because they have like this extra like rawness to it that if a popper goes in there, everyone's like walk out, head roll, step, and it's like so like systematic, and it's like there's no like particular like backstory or feeling to it. There's no story to it. It's just like they're just going through movements, you know. And that was one of the things that I feel like I could say for myself, and then I could say for when I watch people like a frantic or something like that when they dance. It's like their movement has a story like behind it, and they don't have to say anything to explain it. It's like when you see them when they hit, the way they step, the way they swing, the way they do a twisto flex. There's like it's not they're just going through the movements. It's like they're really doing that. You could tell that they have some sort of like substance or authenticity behind it, and all that stuff comes with practice too. So I don't want everyone to feel like they're gonna go home and practice and be like, I want to try that intention stuff, but it's like you got to let it marinate. Like, it's one of those things you just got to keep building on, and eventually it starts to kind of slowly develop. So yeah, yeah, keep practicing that moving with intention stuff, man. That stuff's so dope. It really like gave me more body awareness, like Vlad was saying, like the body awareness that I've been working on now, like just even before like I started today. What's up, Mark? Yeah, and before I even started today, it was kind of crazy. Um, like me having to remind myself, like, yo, use your stomach. You know what I mean? Like when you're doing this step, like it's like you have an idea of how you want to look or how you're portraying the music. So you gotta engage those specific muscles. You know what I mean? In order to get that particular feel. So it's really interesting because it's like it takes a lot of exertion, especially, and a lot of concentration and body awareness. So yeah. Um, if anyone has any questions, feel free to chime in. I still have this list of things I want to go through, and again, I don't want to like go too crazy with it because I want to respect everyone's time. Because I know we have until 8:30. Um, let's go here. Where did I write it down? Nope, that's not it. Where is it? Okay, cool. All right. But yeah, any opportunity for question right now before I go into this little list of things? Y'all good? Okay. Um, let me go through this one. Okay, so this one, Ronell asked this one yesterday, I believe. Send me the email. There he is. Um, so I'm just gonna read it literally. This is verbatim right here. So how hard are you hitting or popping when you pop? Um, is it consistently the same throughout a song, or do you hit lighter on certain vibes and hit harder to accentuate certain parts? You kind of mentioned this when talking about San Jose style versus LA style of popping. Yeah, this is dope. Um, so I'll touch on this, and so my my style of hitting. Gosh, this is low battery. I'll plug it in a minute. When I'm hitting, uh, like right now, I was just practicing. I'll warm up, and I'll like just kind of wake my muscles up, and then because I kind of built that muscle memory, I'll kind of like jump from that to like I'll try to see if I can hit majority of the song with like max potential the entire time, just to see if I can go to that place. So like it's like yesterday I did that workout, and I feel like that muscle memory of being able to hit really hard, it just kind of like sank right back in. It was like, ooh, I got synced in. It was so dope. It was a really good feeling. And for me, as a choice, I love hitting super hard and hitting consistently. Now, this is a choice. This isn't something that you have to do. This is one of the things. I feel like everyone, this is my recommendation, and it's just an opinion, but I feel like most people should learn how to hit hard consistently just to know it, you know? And because this dance, how it started, had that type of feel and approach, it's not to say that you have to do it that way because everyone's different. Everyone has like a different way of expressing this dance, and I feel like it's just a really good starting point, especially because this dance requires so much muscle control. It's like, why not just go to ground zero and learn how this dance was done initially? And the way it was done, if you watch a lot of the originals, it was like that consistent hard hit, especially when you saw dancers from like Los Angeles, which was really big on popping. But San Jose had a very similar style of hitting, and theirs wasn't. I've from hearing stories, there was people that hit hard, but it wasn't like when I saw LA OGs for the first time. That kind of blew my mind because I was like, how are these people hitting so hard? Like one person I want everyone to watch is this guy named Mr. Animation. Rest in peace. He is no longer with us, but he was like during the 90s era, he was one of the people that kind of like, you know, for those that don't know, in the 80s, you know, to mid to late 80s, the dance of popping was looked at as like this fad or trend, and everyone was like, you still doing that stupid dance? Like so like a lot of people fell off, and then it wasn't just that. A lot of people got into like, you know, people had hard lives, you know, people got into like doing stuff in the streets. So it was like not everyone that was super talented at back then doing this dance as like a kid or a young adult got a chance to continue to pursue this. They had to get into other things. So he was like, you know, one of the people that really tried to carry on that whole tradition of like a South Central LA hard hit, you know what I mean? And that was like, you know, proof that's what people were doing back then. So he's just one example of many, you know, he's just one of the stories. But so to answer your question, like I do hit in different intensities on different parts of the song. so like you don't necessarily, you don't have to, there's no rule saying like you have to hit super hard, because if you put it in like a battle context, right, it's like if you're hitting super hard against every single person, like that's only gonna work so far until you get to a person that knows. What if that person that you're battling knows how to hit super hard, and then they know how to do really really ill concepts, and they have ill footwork, and they're super funky. Maybe they know how to do hella rolls and big dynamics. It's like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna sit there and bah bah bah. It's like everyone saw that already for like 6 rounds. So it's like, all right, like what else can you do? So I think that's one of the things. Is like being able to like read music and listen to it and react in different intensities, and that again, it takes practice. But I think this would be really cool that we're touching on textures on Friday, is that there's different intensities to your pop. It's like you could hit full out, like boom, hit super hard, and then being able to do stuff where it's like a really light pop. And what if the music's faster? You know what I mean? It's faster, but it has a lighter feel. So maybe you want to have a consistent hit, and then but you're not hitting to like your full potential. You know what I mean? So there's levels to it, and to answer your question, you do different intensities, and you can accentuate. So I'm looking at it, accentuate certain parts. So like another way. Sorry about this, guys. Another way to do this is use different parts of your body to conserve energy too, is another approach. So I went to LA, what am I talking about? I went to Chicago, and there's a really dope popper from the Midwest. I believe he's from like Indiana, and his name is Popula. So look him up, and he's not like this like really, he's not the popper's popper. And when I say that, it's like when you go on like popping, best of popping 2020, and you look at all the clips, it's like there's a lot of people that look the same, and he definitely doesn't fit that mold. And I feel like for him, he just kind of did really good at what he does, which he plays with a lot of textures. And this dude's just funky, like super funky. And it's like he kind of ran with it and was super good and successful with it. So like he gave me some of the best advice that I still use today. Popula. So I'll type it in the chat if you want to look him up. Popula. So yeah, Popula is from Midwest, and he gave me some really ill advice. He told me at the end of this battle, and he was like, "Yo, I love what you do, man. It's funky and all this and that." But he was just like, "You don't have to hit hard all the time." He's like, "Bro," he's like, "conserve your energy by like messing around with certain parts of the song, like if it's going bah bah boom boom boom, like all that in between stuff, in between like counts, and like." Let's just say you have a bar of like 1, 2, 3, 4. You're like 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. You have all that like in between stuff to just like play with like lighter textures and lighter feel. It's like you don't necessarily have to hit super hard on every single count. You have to go bah 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 bah. You can go bah bah bah. Boom. You have like all that empty space to just mess around with other stuff that doesn't take as much energy, and then also like differentiating which parts of your body that you're popping with too. So like using your arms for a certain part, then switching from that to using your stomach and your core, and then from there then maybe do a whole section of the song where you're using most of your head and just your hands. Boom 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 boom. So little things like that will help you add some variety, and also like just help you conserve some energy. This one's a really crazy one, because I feel like I'll get like, I'm gonna get exiled from the dance community after this one. No, I'm just kidding. It was like, screw Prince Ali. No, I'm just joking. No, it just says, does a dancer have to hit when they dance to be considered popping? Let's just say they're doing lines with their arms and doing marching steps, but they're dime stopping and not necessarily flexing their forearms, chest, and neck. Would you consider that popping? I mean, I'm not like the gatekeeper when it comes to popping, and like I have really like, I just want to say like, the OGs, their opinion holds a lot of weight, but that's not to say that they're gonna be at the end of the day like to dictate how you want to dance and stuff like that. Because I feel like there's one like way of just like respecting OGs and what they did, but then also like still like keeping an open mind and then also being able to still like do your thing, like listen to their story, hear it out, learn what they have to share, and like try to like absorb it, but then also like don't get too influenced to the point where you kind of forget what you kind of wanted to do in the first place. You know what I mean? It's like there's you can still respect the OGs and like and honor what they paved before us, but then I feel like um, in doing that sometimes we can get a little too sidetracked and then try to almost dance like them versus just doing us. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, so it's like um, to answer your question, it's like this. I'll just say this is my approach, and I do this for myself, and this is just how I've been since day one. Like I like what I like, as far as like I loved waving, I loved being able to do a lot of like illusional style, like hitting, like so hitting hard, but you know I also like to just dance and groove and just bug out. So it's like there's a time and place for everything, but the way that I did it was I tried my best to go to the source and really try to be around specific OGs to absorb the dance and the essence of what makes it what it is, and I learned it, and I freaking put myself through the ringer to really try to get this dance down. Then from there it was like I almost want to say like in that 10-year mark of me doing my dance and like really being super disciplined with popping, I kind of like went off this like tangent of like I'm gonna do me, and just started listening to all kinds of like music. I was listening to like modern day like R&B, like all these different songs that I just wouldn't dance to typically, and I just started doing my version to that, and I was like, F it, dude. Like I just started bugging out, going crazy with it. But it was dope because everything that I learned from all that popping stuff was so freaking useful, man. It was like they laid that ground, that foundation for us, and it was just like the tools. Like I'm so glad that I went about it that way, in a way where I was like, you know, I honored and respect what they put before us. That it was like, man, like I'm so blessed to like been able to have learned from these people. So like now I have these tools that I can always pull out. It's like that authenticity card. You know what I mean? It's like it's just nice to have. It's it's not, you don't have to go on this whole like I need to be just like how it was back in the 80s and the 70s. Like nah, it's cool to learn it, but you still, it's okay to also still do your thing too. It's just, you know, it's just all respect, just respecting what they did and just having an open mind and listening to their story. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, these people just want their story to be heard. A lot of these OGs, like that's really all it comes down to. Like I've had people that were like, I don't like this OG, like he's crazy, and like I'll talk to them and I'll just be like, this person just had a freaking messed up life, and it's just like I could hear it in how they talk, and I'm just like, I just got to hear them out. And then they lace me up with so much game on popping and strutting and all that stuff like that. I'm like, holy crap, I did not know that about this dance. And they're telling me stories and stuff, but it was like it was because I gave them the time of day and heard them out. You know what I mean? So it was like I'm so grateful and blessed to be able to like have those conversations. But yeah, just keep an open mind. But I would say to be considered popping, I mean, it's just like, you know, entering a competition for a specific style. There is a criteria, but that's for a competition though. That's different. You have to fit that criteria at least to an extent and still be original and add your own flavor. Hope that answered your question, man. At least a little bit.
It was good. I I've always admired popping. I think, you know, like you mentioned in the other class to folks who I haven't met, but I come from a breaking background, and like after 2015, that's when I got into house and different styles.
Yeah.
But like I'm always very wary if I'm gonna do a different style. Like I want to pay respects,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna my intention is incorporate the stuff you're teaching us in class into my freestyle, but I also want to, you know, yeah, making sure I'm paying respects to the culture. So from, you know.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just like with any dance. It's like we're learning a new cuisine, a food cuisine. You know what I mean? It's like you got to go to the source and learn it, and like pay respects to the people that made this thing. You know what I mean? Before you can go and be like, oh, I got my own version of pizza. It's like, did you go to the source and learn it like some legit pizza? You know what I mean? So it's like it's the same with popping. So anyway, yeah, that's dope, man. That's good to hear, bro. Um, so I'm gonna go into this unless anyone has anything else to add. You know, we'll close it out with these last few things. Um, so the two things that I kind of came up with. Um, the first one was basically on the theme of perseverance, but there's a story that kind of goes with it. Um, so I used to go to LA quite a bit, like at a really young age. So I started going to LA like when I was like 15 years old, and it was just to go watch. I was already popping around this time, so I probably would only been popping for maybe like a year and a half, and I was just like super new and fresh. I just wanted to watch dancers. That's all I really wanted to do. So this was around the time when like YouTube just came out, so there was like only a handful of popping videos online. So like the poppers that I did see, you know what I mean? It was just like, wow, like you would watch them, and a lot of the stuff is like, man, this doesn't even look real. This is like so cool. But then eventually like going to LA and like actually seeing some of these dancers in person, you know what I mean? And this is just me. I'm talking about my perspective being young. Like I'm not, you know, I don't know diss to the Bay Area OGs. They kind of came later in the timeline for me. But like, I went down to LA, and I saw a lot of freaking. It just blew my mind. That's all I'll say. I went down there and I saw what they had to offer in their scene, and I was just like, yo, like, that was for sure a time in my life where I was like, this is for sure what I'm meant to do, and it was like that affirmation that I needed. So I went back home and freaking practiced like crazy. I remember specifically going back home and just being like, I don't want to do anything but pop. So like, I went that summer to LA. I went to an event called Homeland Pop Shop, and it was super sick. I remember that day. This was in 2007 is when I went to LA. I started popping in 2005, and 2007 is when I first went. So yeah, I was like around 15 or 16, and yeah, so I went. So a little after that, I think the following summer I went, and this is the summer of like 2008. I entered my first battle in LA with like no experience. I just went out there, and just like it was a really small like local battle, and I made it to the finals, surprisingly, but it was like I got smoked like bad. Like it was embarrassing. Like it was one of those moments where I was like, I don't want to watch that video anymore. Don't play it. It's just so embarrassing. So it was like I had to battle Slim Boogie. So dude, I got freaking murdered. It was bad. It was one of those moments where I'm like, I feel like everyone has to go through that moment in street dance where you get roasted. Sorry, there's someone passing by in the background. You gotta get roasted. So that was like my rite of passage. I had to battle someone super good and get smoked. So I went back home, and after that, I went back home and I freaking practiced even more. So I remember going to that event, and I came back later that summer and went to freestyle session, but I didn't enter. I just wanted to hit the ciphers. So one thing I'll say is going to like a new territory like that, it's like you there's this like there's this like force field almost of like their expectation of what the dance should look like. They're like their level's so high that I feel like if you're not at that level, it's like you enter in a cipher. They talk about this in this podcast. I'll send it to you guys before I leave today, and it's really really cool because they touch on a lot of cool points. But it was like this unspoken like vibe that you got if you hit a cipher and you weren't ill. It was like, get out of here. It was pretty rough. It was like you didn't just hit the cipher just because oh, this is fun. It was like you had to go in there and have something to show. So it was like I had a really hard time going down there because it was like this love and hate thing where I was like, man, I love being out here because I get pushed so hard being in these ciphers with these really high level dancers, but I'm getting smacked up. Like I'm like going in here, it's lightweight embarrassing, and I'm just over here just doing my thing as a kid, and I'm just like around all like people like Slim Boogie and Frantic and Jay Smooth and all these people, and I'm just like, whoa, like I can't even touch that. So long story short, fast forward, there's a specific battle that I went and tried to enter like many times years later. It's called Flavor of the Year, and I just year after year I would enter this battle, and this was kind of like my mission was like I want to win a battle in LA. So it was like I just want to do it, and just like by myself, not in a 2-on-2, just a 1-on-1, just to see if I could do it. Like I want to see. So I went, and I forget how many times I entered this battle, but every time I would go, either I wouldn't make it past prelims, or I would get into the top 16 and get eliminated like the very first round. Like, and if I did make it past that round, I would get paired up against like a hometown favorite and get freaking wrecked. And it was just like, oh, okay, well, there was that. And I would just go home all quiet, driving back. So I go do my thing, and it wasn't until like it was like all these times. I can't tell you how many times I entered this battle, but one year I just went. I didn't get invited or anything like that. I just drove out there like one cold winter and just was like, you know, I'm gonna enter it and give it another shot. And it was like when I went in there and had that mentality of like really not taking myself so serious. But mind you, I had trained my butt off that whole year, like consistently nonstop. So I was just like, I'm just gonna do this thing. No expectation of like I'm gonna win this. Like there was nothing like that. It was just like, oh, I'm just gonna go. And it was like that. That was like my year. It was like every failure up until that point, and then finally, like I felt like almost like this sense of acceptance. Finally, it was like, wow, like wow, this guy keeps showing face and like got some skills. Like they didn't want to give me the time of day, but I just had to keep showing face. Like that was the thing that did it for me, and it was like finally people were able to kind of like accept me for what I do. And it was a tough one, man, because there was a bunch of times where I was just like, maybe this scene isn't just for me. Like, maybe they don't want me here. I was like, I'll just give up driving out here with all this gas money. And I'm just like, all right. So, but I just kept going, and eventually, I made a little snap. So, it was cool, man. It was just something I wanted to share. But if there's like those moments where it's like, man, I feel like they just don't get me. Like, you just need to keep showing face, yo. Like, that's literally like one of the things. Like, you don't go to the norm of what everyone else is doing. Like be the best version of what you do, and just keep to where it's to a point where it's like undeniable. Like people just have to accept what you do. It's like, oh, okay, they're dope. So that's something I wanted to share. And then with that, it's just embracing your own uniqueness in your journey. So like when you're going to these places, it's really hard to like not get or be impressionable. Like when you go here, it's like it's really really hard to not get persuaded into looking like a specific dancer, or like, oh, they're really good at animating, like I'm not that good, but I'm gonna try to animate against them anyway. And then you end up just not doing you, and you end up not doing your best. So I'm like, I have to go into these battles and just remind myself of where I came from, and like all the work that it took me to get to that point. And not in this like egotistical fashion of like, yo, I'm gonna freaking wreck everyone, like I don't care. Like it's just like, yo, I got something to prove and get off my chest. Like this is just for me to like blow off some steam and really just like prove to myself that I can accomplish this. And even if I fall flat, like there's been so many battles that I've done where like I lost the first round, but that first battle that I did was so worth the trip because I learned so much from it. It was like, I remember going to freestyle session, in my first battle I got paired up against freaking Frantic. It was like, oh shit. It was like the very first round, and I'm like, yo, this was like, I don't even care if I lose right now. That was my mentality. I was like, I don't even care if I lose right now. I was like, this is exactly what I drove like freaking 6 hours for. Like this was so worth it. Like, so I just was so happy and satisfied with just that experience in itself. It had so many lessons in it. So yeah, just some stuff, some motivation for everyone to keep training and stuff like that. Like if you ever have any questions, like I really want to see people grow even outside this whole series. I'll do another one sometime down the road, maybe in the springtime or whatever. But like I really want to kind of try to keep in touch with everyone, you guys, and see your growth. And like if you guys got battles coming up, let me know, and just so I can make some time to like watch them and stuff like that. Like I want to see some people go out there and get some experience, and like get some wins. Even in the losses, there's still a lot of wins in all of those the experiences and lessons. So yeah, questions, anyone have any questions before we close it out? I think that was like a cool note to end on that one, but go ahead, Mark. Oh, you're muted, dude. Can't hear you.
Oh, there we
There
go.
you go. Cool, cool, cool.
Um, well, I guess when it comes to like battling, like, I think I can't remember how many years ago it was, but I remember seeing you start getting into like all styles battles and things like that. Um,
Yeah.
like that must have been a journey in itself. And I noticed like with all styles battles is like two like trains of thought. One's like doing all styles, right? Like it's like open styles versus all styles and that. And what I really like is how you keep in the popping element,
Yeah.
even if it's not a popping song. And that's not easy. Like, how do you do that? Like, do you train yourself for that or?
You you trained a lot of bad music. Like you just go and just play. And I mean that was one of the things that really helped me was just like, dude, how do I stick to like what I do, my flavor, and what my choosing and adapt. So like that's why I was like stressing dancing to dancing to music that's not always gonna be to your liking, you know, because that's dude, I hate all styles battles. Like they're fun sometimes. You're just like, I'm just gonna do this one just for the heck of it, you know, just have fun. But there's some times where like I'll get invited to do a dance an all styles battle, and I'm just like, oh, okay. Now there's this expectation for me to do really good. I'm like, okay, now I can't really mess around. So I'm like, I know they're gonna play Ludacris. I know they're gonna play some E40. I was like, I'm like some Fat Joe, Lean Back. Like I already know this is gonna be the playlist, and I'm like, okay, just at that point, you're just gonna have to have fun and just I have to almost like remind myself of like moments that I've had with music like that, like growing up listening to that music, and like that stuff helps me a lot because I'm like, I remember this song in high school. This song's hella dumb. Whatever. I'm just gonna dance to it. Lean back, lean back, and I'll just like, yo, freaking like stick to like sit in the pocket with that specific dance style, and then just like I was saying, you don't necessarily have to hit super hard on every single beat, and that was one of the things that helped me adapt was I didn't put myself in this box of having to be like bah bah like a popper's popper. Like I just went in there and I would pop, and then dance kind of like in between. That way I had like this freedom to just like mess around with all the little things in the music. So it was like I didn't restrict myself to popping on every single count or every four counts. You know what I mean? It was like boom, da, let it go for a while. Now I'm in this whole other world. Now I could play with, I could do with like funny things, like character stuff. I could do things of playing around with the little bells and whistles and the music, and then I come back to my bass again. Boom, bah, boom, boom. So like that's kind of the tools that I used when I would do like all styles battles. It was like the mental part was just me like messing around, and then the other part was like me trying to see if I can like almost juggle, like do a little bit of popping. All right, let it go. Forget that. Mess around a little bit. Do this. Okay, now come back to it. So, and timing it with the music, of course, that takes practice too. So yeah, that's what helped me adapt. And I just love popping in these all styles battles and trying to adapt. It's fun because it's so hard, but it's super fun. Yeah, man. Cool, cool. Any other questions? All right.
Yeah, I have some.
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess I'm not very familiar with the battling world. What is the typical criteria you are judged on?
So for the criteria for that is interesting because you have the different categories and stuff like that. Um, Give me a second, y'all. Hold on. I'm gonna switch over my Wi-Fi real quick. I apologize. Hold on. Just give me 1 second because this hotspot's about to die, and I just need to switch over real fast. So you might lose me for like 1 second. Okay. All right. Cool. Am I frozen? Come on. Okay. Cool. All right. So the criteria. Low. I'll just talk about popping first, and I'll talk about all styles real quick, and then yeah, I'll try to touch base on a little bit of everything. And again, it's 8:30. If people gotta bounce, that's completely fine. I respect everyone's time here. So popping usually depend. It all depends on the judges. So like, the way I see it is that let's just say Popping Pete is judging an event, and Popping Pete is from the group the Electric Boogaloo's. So they have like a whole school of thought on like how they do their popping stuff. And You know, they're basically the innovators of the electric boogaloo style. They were the ones that basically like birthed that whole style, their group. So you know, there's there's almost that expectation to kind of do a little bit of that, and also like you know if they really like hard hits, it's like you kind of almost like, all right, well, I know I got to do a little bit of that at least, you know. So I always look at the judges during these battles. I'm looking at the DJs who's spinning. So a lot of the times, you know, you'll have a DJ that, you know, no diss, but sometimes there's a DJ where it's like, I know they're gonna play this type of music. I just know them because I've been to events where they spin at, and I'm just like, I know it's gonna be like they're gonna play a bunch of like dubstep or something like that. Like especially these all styles battles. Like I remember, it's just notorious, but I remember I used to go to Sacramento sometimes to battle, and I'm like, this is gonna be a dubstep fest. It's gonna be like, wah, 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 wah. I'm like, there's gonna be no funk, no breaks, just all like super popular, like real like cheesy dubstep music. So I was like, it's gonna be like a world of dance vibe. So I just kind of would prepare myself for that. So these are the things that I had to like look at when I would attend these events. And then for those that don't know, I mean, the events are in a bracket form. So, you know, everyone does a pre-selection round. Everyone's basically getting called up, you know, one at a time and doing these things. And you have to dance for the judges. And for 30 seconds, you do your showcase. And then after that, then the judges kind of delegate or deliberate their decision. They come up with a top 16. So those top 16 battlers all basically battle it out until you get the final two battlers. They battle it out, and then that person ends up, whoever wins that last battle is the final winner. So a lot of these battles don't have a first or second, second or third place. It's just first place winner. That's it. There's no second or third place trophies. It's like, damn. So that one's always a hard pill to swallow, especially when you go really far and you like give it your all and you just walk out empty handed. But you know, at the end of the day, you're just doing it. You're supposed to be doing it just because you love to do it, and hopefully, if you win, you win. You know, so that's for popping. And then for the all style stuff, you know, I feel like that one's just a wild card. That's why I said I'm like all styles battles. I'm like that's a love and hate relationship. It's fun when you're just like I'm just gonna go in there and just mess around because they're just gonna play some funny music. You never know. Like I went to this Red Bull thing down in LA. It was called Red Bull Dance Your Style, and they were playing the funniest music. Like, if there's any clips of it, they just type in like Red Bull Dance Your Style on YouTube, and like some of the rounds that they were playing for some of the some of the songs they were playing for the rounds, it was like really, but it was interesting to see how the dancers would improvise to it. So that was one of the things that made it entertaining, and it was just for that reason. It wasn't like who's the best dancer, like you know, let's see, because it was just all pure entertainment value. That's all it was. So yeah, I would highly recommend battling. I mean, one day just get in there and just test it out because I've learned so much just from battling, and this is one of the reasons why I love it so much. It's just I go out there and I'm. It's like you're so vulnerable and like you just freaking whatever anyone's doing against you, just kind of like have to learn how to adapt in that moment. So I've learned how to freestyle so well just by putting myself in those high pressure situations. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question about the freestyle stuff. Yeah. Anything else? I know Cole Krishna had a quick question right here. As far as how do you prioritize these for a battle? Musicality, technique, energy, attitude, and confidence. Yeah, that's a deep one. I mean, as far as prioritizing, I mean they're all important, man. I mean, if you're entering a popping competition, your popping needs to be on point. That's just a given. You know, your technique and just your understanding. All right, Chuchen, I'll see you later. Okay, have a good night. Um, you're popping. You have to have like an understanding and the comfortability with the style to where the judges, just by your body language, they know this person is experienced in this dance style. That's definitely a big one. And then just like your confidence too, like your the way that you kind of command the space when people watch you. It's just like they can definitely tell when someone's like, let's just say someone's dancing with their head to the floor like this the whole time. You know what I mean? Versus the other person that's going out and battling, they're like, bah, like they're commanding the space. Like you could just see it by their body language. Like that's definitely another one. But I'll just say like the mentality though, like is so underrated. Like, and I feel like you have all this external stuff that we're worried about, but like if you have a mentality of like you're not worried about looking silly or like messing up here and there and just like not taking yourself so serious, but also still wanting to do your best. You know what I mean? Like I still want to kill it, but I feel like I'll do really good if I just kind of take all these extra and like worries off my shoulder. Like those are probably the moments where I feel like I've done my best in battles, is where I kind of checked myself like before I went and did a round. It was like, yo, you're gonna be fine. Like, just freaking go out there and just listen to the music and just have fun. So like, my musicality comes out the best in those moments where I really try to like get in my nice mental headspace before I do my round. So yeah, energy's a big one for a battle. Definitely don't want to go in there and just be like on a chill vibe, because I know that's something that I've seen in battles where it has it has played against a person. Like they're super creative, their flow is on point. They're just a solid all around dancer. Then they dance against someone that's, um, you know, probably almost on par with their technicality. Maybe not as creative, but their energy was like boom right there. Like it was appropriate for a battle, and I've seen where judges have gone for that in a specific battle that I'm just like, oh okay, like their reasoning was that they were battling. The other person was just kind of just doing their thing. It was amazing, but it was just like them just kind of doing their thing. Like it was like they were labbing, just here like practicing. And the other person was like they wanted it, like they actually wanted to like win this competition. So that's definitely that changes depending if you're doing a battle or not. But yeah, cool question. Yes, Regent, go ahead.
Wait, going off like what you just said, like, is it possible to be like to have like a battling attitude with like a more chill vibe? Is that a possible? Have you seen that? Like, because I feel like when we think about aggression, I feel like instinctually we think about like someone who goes all out, but like, is it possible to have someone who's chill but still really aggressive?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think it's all just about how you like present your ideas when you're doing the battle. Like you could be super chill and like the friendliest person. Like I dance really intense, but like at the end of the day, like I'm down to freaking go get a slice of pizza with you after. You know what I mean? Like I'm just that like that. So like, um, but as far as like presenting your ideas, and this is just all gonna vary from person to person. Like Slim Boogie's a really good example of that. Diesel's a really good example of that. Um, who else dances super chill but is really effective in a battle? Well, I actually battled with Diesel, and what was cool is that it was like we had like this ice and fire type of vibe to us when we did a battle. This is actually my first time ever winning a battle in LA, but it was a 2-on-2. So his was like he was like just kind of flowy and like real super creative. Like that was his whole thing, and I was like, this is perfect because like I'm like super fiery. Like when I battle, I'm like bah, boom, boom. So like, we definitely balanced ourselves out. But I think you being able to like accent the music helps a lot. Like if you're trying to be like on a chill vibe and stuff like that, I think you being really connected with the music helps a lot, because you might catch something in the music because of your chill. Oh, there she is. Hey, we got Melissa. Melissa's in the house. You might catch something in the music because you were sitting in the pocket and just taking your time and chilling, that the person that was being really fiery and like attacking the music, they went they completely missed it because they were so worried about bah boom boom the whole time, right? That all the little bells and whistles in the song and all the extra stuff that was underneath the music, they they danced like over it. You know what I'm saying? So like, there's a moment where I did that in a battle. Not not being the chill person, but me dancing and attacking the music, and it actually played against me. And I ended up losing to someone that I was like, I know I could have beat this person, But it was just because I went out there and I was attacking the music too much that I fell short. And I was just like I wasn't listening to the music and reacting like I should have. And I just was like going I was just going way too crazy. Like it just worked against me. And it was like the person that I battled literally just sat in the pocket the entire time. And because they connected with the music better, that's what made them edge me out. You know what I mean? So yeah, to answer your question, I feel like music is like a secret weapon. If you can try to see if you could really connect with the music and like present your ideas along with that, like if you have a really ill concept or a ground move or something like that, yeah. But it's cool to like if you can. This is another dangerous combination. If you can kind of like jump back and forth between those two feels, like go from like almost like an attack mode and then come back to something that's like you just being chill and like having a mix, like that's hard to beat too, because it's like, oh dude, they're showing a whole nother level of control of being able to do something that's really high energy and like, you know, like what you would think like a popper's popper, and then something that's a little bit more abstract and different, but it's still to the music. So it's like, oh dang, this person can do multiple things. So that's another thing. Hopefully that helps. I mean, yeah, the music is your weapon, yo, and your friend, not just weapon. Yeah. What's up, Melissa? Got the burrito? Looks good. Tight. Yeah, let's go, Christina.
So actually, it's just piggybacking off of that. I think is cool if you want to speak on. I think because battling is taken in the tournament format
Yeah.
is kind of tough, right? Because there's always this like, oh, let's just exchange kind of thing, friendly attitude. But at the same time, I think, and I'm coming to terms with that, and probably Crumb has a lot to do with it, but is that at the end of the day, if you're on a one-on-one battle, you're not on like, it's not like a tournament where you dance by yourself and then the next person dance by themselves. When you're battling someone,
Mm-hmm.
um, the attitude is different. Yeah, like the approach.
Yeah.
It's just got, however we do it, however aggressive or whatever, but the intention is that I'm here to win. I'm here to kill you off.
Yeah.
That's kind of like however I do it,
Yeah.
right? Is that kind of how it works? Can you, because there's a lot of times these are taken in kind of like this tournament atmosphere. It kind of makes it a little tough
Yeah.
to.
That's a really good conversation because the whole tournament. So these battles are essentially all at the end of the day. They're just tournaments and showcases. They're not real battles because a real battle is you calling someone out either because you want to prove something either to yourself or to them to show them that you're just as good or better. You know what I mean? Or there's some beef between you two and you want to, you know, settle it through your dancing, right? You know, someone said you were sorry at your dancing. You're like, oh, so and so through the grapevine said you were whack, and you're like, oh, okay, let's see what that's, you know, if that's true, let's go and battle. So like there's that, and then there could just be friendly battling, you know what I mean, like two crewmates that want to battle each other at practice. It's like sparring, you know what I mean. It's like you guys are trying to, like, you know, iron sharpens iron, you know. The battle in a cipher, so the one I was just describing earlier, that's more of like a cipher battle, right? So it's more spontaneous. You're catching them at the club when they're, you know, they're a little bit not expecting it, you know what I mean, or maybe they are expecting it. You guys know, you guys go to the same party, but you know that person's gonna be there, so you're planning on calling them out there, you know what I mean. Like there's like that little bit of anticipation, there's some backstory to it, you know. It's a little drama, right? So you go and you do the battle, and I feel like that that all depends, because I feel like who goes out first is the person that starts the conversation, and they have to respond to whatever you set out. So to start off has its advantages, and you can go out super hard and like set the tone like here. That has its advantages, but it also has its drawbacks, because if you, I'm just giving you a scenario, like let's just say you went out there and you went out there like you were trying to kill them off on the very first round, and then they responded and they were able to like hit the music, or they had something super ill, but they did it like if it was easy, like they did it with literally no effort. That makes it, then that makes what you just said of like, it was like someone just screaming like, you motherfucker, like that, and then you just said something super smart that just like tore them down. They were just like, ah, like it just made you look like this like crying baby, like just on a rant, like you know what I mean? It's like the dancing version of that. So it's like, um I think one of the things that kind of helped me understand this better was watching my friend Roxrite battle, because he was like, he was so good at like approaching battles, whether it was in a cipher or it was in like a competition, and like he was the one that really like helped me understand that it's at the end of the day it's a conversation, and you have the upper hand potentially when you start the conversation, and you're the one that's initiating the first few moves, you know what I mean? So like sometimes it's almost better, and this again, this is just one of those things that's just an approach that you can try, is like give them a taste. Like it could be something super like super sharp and aggressive, or however your style is, but you're just giving them a little piece, and then from there, then you kind of almost bait them in to see what they're gonna respond with. You know what I mean? So that's another like technique, and to kind of see like, you know, were you there when I battled Crow?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like a perfect scenario, you know what I mean? Because I knew, I was like, this guy's gonna kill me off. Like I already know for a fact, all 3 rounds are gonna be bangers from the first one to the very last one. But I'm like, that's not gonna work for 3 rounds. In my mind, I was like, the first round's gonna be dope. Like you almost have to. Here's another thing too. You almost have to be prepared mentally for those rounds where someone does something dope and everyone's like, oh, like those moments, you have to be so mentally prepared for those, because those are the ones that people kind of get shook, and then they do it just like a regular old throwaway round, right? And as a response, and then everyone's like, it's like this silence, and then they respond, they do another kill off round, then you got to respond again, you're still shook. So it's like you have to be like, just have this like mental guard up of like not let it phase you. So like one of the things that I do when I practice is like I almost imagine that when I'm doing these like little simulations in my mind practicing for a battle, I like I'm like, every round that someone's doing against me is a freaking their dopest round. I'm like, imagine they just did a round where like everything was a freaking kill off, and I'm like, how would you respond to that? How would you deal with that mentally? Are you still able to still do you? Or are you gonna get influenced by that and try to do something that they're doing, and then you don't end up doing it as good, or maybe you do something just as good. Who knows? Maybe you have the ability to do that, and you have it in your back pocket. You know what I'm saying? So it's um, like there's been so many situations where I feel like I had to respond to someone, and I knew I couldn't do what they did. So what I did is I just stuck to my guns, and it worked. It actually ended up playing in my favor. And what happened was, because since I did that, they ended up responding trying to match what I just did, and they couldn't do what I did at all. So then now everything's starting to shift. The energy's shifting to like, oh snap, okay, like and then then you're like, oh, I got you, boom, here we go, we're gonna freaking do a crazy round right now. You know, it's like little strategies like that that kind of help. So that took me so long to understand. I don't know why, and oh no, I'll take that back. I do know why, and it goes back to me being this scared little kid. That's what it is. Like that's in reality, me really looking back, it just all stems back to me being this little scared kid, and just like, you know, growing up, and 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 that was one of the reasons why in martial arts I didn't excel, because I understood the technique. I knew how to defend myself and all that stuff, but I just didn't have that fight in me to be like, I just want to take this person's head off and just, you know, and win. I didn't have that, like, you know, that tenacity, and I needed to like check myself and be like, what are you afraid of, dude? Just snap, just go. And it was like once I was able to tap into that, but it was easy for me to do it with dancing, because dancing was like my shit. You know what I mean? I was like, I love dancing, so it was a little bit easier for me to tap into that. And so yeah, like all those little life experiences though, man, show up so much in dancing. It's crazy. It's like dang, why do I keep falling flat with this? And then sometimes it's not even dance related. It's like it's some internal thing that you need to figure out for yourself, and you're just like, oh snap, you figure that out, and you're like, oh shoot, I just unlocked a new level. And then you end up freaking doing something that you were like, man, I've been trying to do that freaking move forever, like, you know what I'm saying? And then you end up freaking doing it, like you just envision it and it just comes out. There's no more mental block or barrier no more. So yeah,
Totally makes sense. Thank you.
crazy. Yeah. But anyway, any other questions, things like that? Yeah, go ahead. It's all good. And again, if you people gotta bounce,
Yeah, sorry.
you guys are okay. Go ahead. Read.
Yep. You were kind of talking about how like in like in like a battle format where like one goes after the other, you actually consider like going first as an advantage. Like, could you kind of like delve into that more? Because like where for me, like it felt like it's the other way because like if you go like after, it feels like you have the mic class basically, right? You have like the last say, you have this prompt to answer to and stuff.
Yeah.
If you have to go first, what would be like your strategy then,
Yeah.
such that they can't answer it or something?
That's where you really gotta level yourself up to where it's a level of confidence that you build for yourself, and you have to really know that they don't know how to do you, like they really don't. So that's another thing. And I feel like to have the physical ability part of it, where it's just like the Slim Boogie thing, for example. When I battled him when I was like freaking 16 years old, right? There was nothing that I could have done to have won that battle. Like there was not going to be this like miracle moment. You know what I mean? That's just me being realistic. So like, but as far as like once you get to a specific level where it's like, I think I can be a contender in this thing. That's when you're more in a position to be like, if I do go first, let's just say you don't have all of the skills and abilities yet, and you still decide to go first. I feel like you should train to do rounds that are literally like you giving it all you got, but back to back rounds like that. So that's one way to train is like if for any reason, I actually did this for. I think if you watch, no. I was gonna say, I know that for a fact I did a battle where almost every single round, when they spin the bottle and all that stuff like that, I went first almost every single round, and it got to a point where I was just like, don't even spin the bottle anymore, dude. I'm just gonna go first. Like I already know I'm gonna have to go first, so it just it's honestly like a lot of fear. Like people don't want to have that first say. You know what I mean? To be the conversation starter, because especially if they're going against someone good, it's like you're almost like, what if I don't do that good and they just blow it up? You know what I mean? And it's just like then I have to like I have this like uphill battle to like match whatever they did, and it's like, nah, man, just go in there and freaking kill it. Like and it's all in here. Like a lot of it is here. Once I got past that mental, um, what is it? Not a mental block, but just like me having that fear of like I don't think I'm gonna do good if I go first. Like they're just gonna go ahead and respond to something better. Like that all goes back to that whole comparison thing. So like if you just go in there and just freaking give it all you got and really train like that every single time that you train, like do rounds where you're like doing full out rounds, and then take a breath, then come back and do another round just like that. That way you just know that you have the physical ability to do that, because the chances are you're probably going to have battles where you're going to have to do have to start first almost every single matchup that you have. You got to prepare yourself for those situations. They're not the most ideal. It's always like you said, it's more ideal to go second, because you get to see what they do, and then from there then you're like, oh, okay, that wasn't so bad. Now I'm just gonna do me, and I know I can kill it. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's easy. It's like I feel like I grew so much more in having to go first, and having to deal with all that adversity of like, oh man, what if I don't do that good, or oh they did that, or I know that they have the ability to do that, and they can just easily come back and just smoke me. Like, gotta block all that stuff out, and just freaking go off. So that's what helped me. you know. To that though, I do want to add on though. This is another thing. If there's specific dancers that you really look up to, you know, or dancers that you know you want to go head to head against because you want to challenge yourself, like, not to say to study them, but if you have an idea of how they dance, and this is all competitive, right? Has nothing to do with like expressing yourself and dancing for fun. I'm talking about just by being the competitive mindset and approach. Like, um, start to think about like what are the types of things that you know that they can do, and like just start to prepare yourself how you would respond to those different dancers and their strengths. You know what I mean? Because you have like this like mental check off list of like different things that you can go and respond with. It's like, do I match what they do? Do I even have the ability to do that? Maybe I don't have the ability to do that. Like, I have to start to look at and see how long it is between now and the battle. Like, let's just say your next battle that you're going to do is in 6 months. That's plenty of time to train on your weaknesses. So if you know there's specific dancers that are going to do a certain style and you're like, I don't really think I can do what they do, you know, maybe I'm going to train up. Maybe they're really good at footwork. I'm going to train on my footwork. So then you do your own version of some really ill footwork. So then now you know you have that. So you have that 6 month period. Now let's say you got asked to do a battle and it's literally next month. Like, you don't have time to train on those weaknesses as much. So it's almost like you almost have to double down on all your strengths. So it's like if you do have those moments where you have to battle that person, and you're just like, okay, like I know they're gonna be really dope at this. Just my recommendation is try to respond just doing you, and that works a lot too. Like, that's helped me a lot, and I've done that for the longest time too. As I wouldn't even go there with certain dancers. I learned my lesson. I was like, I'm just gonna do my thing. Like, I appreciate what they just did, but I'm just like, I don't think it's gonna fare very well. I'm just gonna go and just do me. So there's that too. Hope that helps. Yeah. Cool, man. Yeah, what's up, Melissa? Let's go.
Hey everyone. Okay, it's a short question. I hope it's eye contact. Like, it came up as you were talking about doing you and studying the other dancer, and I thought sometimes when I've battled, I overly look at the judges and I'll like stare them down. I don't know. I get into these things and I'm like, I don't know. So do I look at my opponent? Do I look at the audience? Do I do this thing where like I'm not looking at anyone? And I know some of that stuff, like, you can't decide in advance. You just like get into the mode or the character. Do you have a preference of what you do and what you learned is best for you, or what you
Yeah,
recommend?
that's a really good one. That's gonna vary. The eye contact stuff does help, but it's not something that I'm big on. I've never been the eye contact dude. I've had people do that to me, and I could see why, because if you're not mentally prepared to go against someone that's really intense like that, it could really, like, you know, throw you off your base, or you get a little like shook. So for me, I was never big on it, and I feel like what has worked for me was dancing towards someone and not necessarily having to like give them like direct eye contact. And if I ever did, it was always for like a short period of time, just so that I could connect with them, you know. And the same thing for the judges stuff. You know, I would dance towards them because I feel like um, it almost can come off a little corny sometimes if you are connecting with that person over. It's like almost overkill sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, if you do it, and it's like, um, I battled this girl. Her name is Lady C. She is dope. She's like, I think just all around dancers, like, she's probably like one of my favorites to watch. And I had to battle her at R16 like a long time ago. Like, we had a battle, and I barely beat her. Like, she was super dope. Like, I think for me, um, one of the things that she did was her eye contact, and her whole character was like so perfect. Like, she had the hat and it was like tilted, so she, to be honest, she looked kind of scary because she was like, she was looking, and then the it was like this. So she was looking at me. It was like boom, boom, boom. She was giving me the eye contact like that. Then she turned around to the judge and looked at the judge and did her thing. I mean, she didn't really do a lot of popping. I wish Ronell was still here because he asked that question of like, do you have to be popping to consider to be popping? And I'm like, in a contest, yeah, kind of, because that's the kind of the criteria of the style. You know what I mean? In the outside, in a cipher, it's a little bit more open range. It's like you can just kind of do your thing, and you can come back to the popping field, but you don't necessarily have to stick to it the entire time. You know what I mean? So it's like the only reason why I ended up advancing past her was just because I kind of was more consistent in my popping. But back to your thing, Melissa, was I just that the eye contact works, but I think, in my opinion, it can go overkill if you go a little too much. And I feel like it's nice if you just kind of like add a little bit of eye contact to connect with the person, to acknowledge them and let them know like, yeah, this is a battle and we are going against each other. But then just putting your energy towards them, and also acknowledging everyone else around you too. Like that's another thing too, is like I always think about it like you have, and this is for a competition, not a cipher, but you have your person that you're going against, you have the judges, and then you have everyone else spectating. You know what I mean? So if you can challenge yourself to, it's really hard. It's like mental multitasking, but it's like, all right, now I'm gonna battle you, and I'm gonna face boom here, and I'm gonna go on a 360 and do something a little bit more dynamic. That way everyone can see and kind of give them a little taste. So stuff like that kind of helps and stuff like that. I'm sorry, I have family over today. It's kind of crazy. They're going off right now. It's my sister's kids. But anyways.
Thank you.
Anyway, yeah, right on, Mark. No problem. I'll see you Friday. But anyhow, any other questions? All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. That was a really dope one. We got super deep on that one. But if you ever have any questions outside of this, if you think of it and you didn't think of it from later, or tonight, if you think of it later, just message me. Gotta learn.
Thank you, Alex. See you guys.
No problem, Krishna. All right. See y'all later. Have a good night. Peace.
Peace. Good night.
Good night, everyone.